On the camera, I'm telling you. Hi everyone, so Colin and I were really surprised by the overwhelming response we got from our last episode of Dolly Tales because we hadn't done an episode in like over a year, and when we first started, those videos got like the lowest views on my channel, and of course like views aren't everything, but I felt like people weren't as interested in Dolly Tales.
Yeah, it was like there were a few hardcore fans of the series that would comment about it and always watched it.
So since you guys really liked seeing an odd assortment of dolls and us talking about them, and you didn't mind the 40-minute length, we're going to be showing you another 21 dolls today actually. Colleen and I nowadays are the kind of people where we don't prune our collection at all in terms of dolls. Like, for the most part, when we get stuff, we keep it. And
which is part of why our collection is so big.
Right, and people don't realize that we've been doing this for literally 20 years.
At some point, Shelly was like an obsessive pruner. She felt like she had too many dolls when she was, what, about 9?
I like to get rid of stuff. And Colleen can attest to this, that every few times a year I'm like going through our movies, going through my clothes, going through the dishes. Like, I go through stuff all the time.
And I'd be like, Shelly, who cares if we have like a few extra mugs?
But I can't
break them anyway.
Stand clutter. I know, this is so ironic. Like, I just can't stand it. And I think it's like a way of relieving anxiety for me. So for me, like as a kid, I would feel anxious about things, and that was my way of controlling my environment. And I would feel also bad, like, oh, I'm greedy for having so many dolls, and I would get rid of them. So I went through, there were 2 phases of us getting rid of dolls. The first was when I was 9. Our parents had a yard sale, and I decided to like be really harsh and get rid of a bunch of dolls, and you're gonna see as we tell the stories how ridiculous it was, and that this is like really pointless pruning I did. And then the second time was in 2011, right when we were starting to get back into dolls, but at that point we hadn't really even fully gotten back into Barbie. We were barely doll collectors. Like, we were buying dolls, but it was still so new to us. And I got rid of some dolls at a yard sale that our dad's friend had, and I went through like that I need to prune phase, but it was kind of different. So that's why I always encourage people to make sure you understand why you want to get rid of stuff, that there is no perfect number for a collection. It's okay if you have a bigger collection, and if you don't like keeping duplicates, or you only have a certain amount of space. Like, I know not everyone can cover their house or apartment in dolls, but just make sure, watch our video Conscious Collecting, because we talk a lot about that. But that is personally why I have decided not to, because you'll see there was a lot of wasted money that happened here.
There's also a few dolls that, like Coco and Katie in our last video, got replaced not because we wanted to prune them out, but because they got so gnarly that we couldn't keep them anymore.
These aren't all of them though. That's what I mean.
No.
These are not all of the dolls, and there are still some that I have not replaced to this day that I got rid of at 8 years old, like Glam and Green Christy, Holiday Singing Sisters Kelly, that Dad got rid of because we fought over her. Karma, Faggot, doesn't want us to have that Kelly.
Yeah. I wrote a whole post called Love the One You're With about placeholder and replacement dolls on Flickr, which goes into more depth about how that doll that replaced a doll or filled in the spot of a doll you wanted may end up becoming more special than the doll you originally had or envisioned.
I do want to say that too, that all of the dolls that we're going to show you, we appreciate them more than the originals.
So,
this is a very popular guy.
I'm sorry if you guys are tired of seeing Leroy. So he's actually kind of like a replacement / placeholder doll. Shelly broke Bradley, my first 1992 Classics Aladdin. His head fell clean off. And
I don't remember doing it either.
We actually still have Bradley, but Mom gave Bradley to Shelly, and Leroy she bought for me as a replacement, even though it wasn't exactly the same. At first I wasn't so keen on the fact that he was in a bathing suit instead of his like classics attire, because Bradley came with more. But obviously Leroy and I have a deep bond that like transcends that of a normal doll owner.
And you have more than one.
Yeah, and ironically he's one that I have Lennon, who I bought as a kid, and Luxor, who I bought last year.
Yeah, he's in a haul video.
Yeah, he's in one of our hauls from last year. So I actually love Leroy so much that he got shabby, and I actually replaced Leroy, but I still have Leroy and Bradley. And in case you're wondering, Leroy didn't have his name until I was 15 and Shelly was going on 11. he fell in love with sparkling Jasmine at the beach one day and got his name and claimed to fame.
These are Sun Colors, Pocahontas, and Nicoma. So some of my very, very first Disney dolls were the Sun Colors line. I actually kind of remember seeing this movie in theaters, and I remember the merchandise. And I showed Coquelin in the last video, and I talked about how my Pocahontas dolls had gotten really destroyed. Well, that was true of Colleen's too. So I didn't pick out...
The guinea pigs, they ate the
Pocahontas or Nicoma. They were actually things that like Mom and Dad got us at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. And I was more interested in the dude dolls from mine. I remember specifically both Pocahontases lost their heads, and they both got various chew marks. And this Connecthlon hair rats up really easily, so they have like full-on dreadlocks. And then Nicoma, I specifically remember Colleen's had no hands because they were completely chewed off.
So she had the karate arms with no hands.
I think mine lost its head. I don't really remember, but basically I had pieces of Pocahontas dolls, and they got thrown out like well before I even had new dolls. It wasn't like Coquelin, I didn't hold on to them. They were just so vile and disgusting because Peter and Tina are childhood guinea pigs. They would come out to play and I'd just be like, here, eat my doll. That's what happened to them. And then when I was 11 years old, we stopped in at this really disgusting indoor flea market for the first time. It was a hole in the wall. It was literally like the size of a tiny diner. And there was this man who had a bunch of like 90s Barbies stuck in cups and mugs. And I saw Pocahontas, and she was the only really nice looking one. It was the same guy Colleen got her Hawaiian Fun skipper named Margie from.
Same day?
And, yeah, same day. And I was really, really excited. Well, then he said, oh, I have another one of those in a box, and Nicoma was in her original box, but she had been pulled out, stuffed back, and the box was crushed. The box was moldy.
The accessories weren't all there.
Now, this is the kicker. He wanted $5 for this Pocahontas and all the other mangy Barbies, and $8 because she had a box.
And she didn't, like, this isn't the outfit we got her, and she wasn't worth $5.
Quite this nice. So Dad, of course, because he spoiled us, he let me get them. But when I got home, Nicoma didn't even have any of her accessories. No blanket, no fire pit, nothing. $8. $8. But it was well worth it. These two are still my two of my favorites in my collection. And I have a lot of duplicates. They never get put away on my display.
When I was really little, Shelly lost my Classics Jasmine in a store, and then Mom and Dad got me Water Jewel Magic Jasmine as a replacement. You're noticing a theme here. We had no luck for Jasmine.
Wanting Colleen's Aladdin dolls, and something bad happening to her.
And the other force in our house that made Aladdin dolls hard to keep was Haley, my dog. So at some point, for a very brief time, I owned one of these, a Water Surprise Jasmine, and I would play with her and Water Jewel Magic Jasmine in the tub. I remember they would like stand under the thing together, and I loved watching the jewels change colors. And I thought she was really cool, but like I thought she was kind of like a fakey Jasmine doll because of this cheap bathing suit. But I thought she was really cool. And one day I had Jasmine in the car, and then I came out of the car and I must have dropped her and not realized it. I turned around to look for her, and literally her legs were gone. Haley ate the doll off the legs. And I was devastated, and I was very upset with Haley. So Haley liked Aladdin merchandise a little too much.
I had a little figurine that came with one of those like Disney play sets, like those miniatures. And I remember walking down the hall holding Jasmine, and Haley took a bite, and Jasmine's head was gone.
Yeah, Haley was, yeah. So I forgot I even had this doll and thought she was a figment of my imagination. Well, then in 2011, Shelly got Margot Rana's Disney doll guide.
2010.
And I saw her picture on like one of the very first pages. I'm like, I had that doll. And Shelly's like, no you didn't. I'm like, no really, I did. Haley ate that doll.
And then when you told me the story, I remembered the story as a kid.
And it made Shelly want the doll. So Shelly wound up going out and buying her. So this is one of the first pieces to Shelly's
Yeah, she was actually,
collection.
I want to say, besides my holiday Jasmine, the first one from eBay that came in the mail of my Aladdin dolls. Her elastic chains is my Fashion Fantasy Cindy. So, this is one of the reasons, she's one of the reasons why, like, when people get us gifts, even if there may be dolls that we wouldn't normally collect or we already have, why we treasure them so much, because I always think of this memory. So, when I was a little kid, about, I don't know, 8 years old, me and Dad went to Walmart, and Dad liked to spoil me rotten, and I remember that he left me in the toy aisle, and I saw the new Disney doll, and I never had a Cinderella, like a full-size Cinderella, up until that point, but I loved how she came with like all these spare clothes. I was a real sucker for extra clothes, and I thought Cinderella dolls had been ugly up until that point. She's got this really pretty facial screening. Well, Dad came back and he saw me looking at Cinderella, and even though she was like 20 bucks at the time, he said, "Oh, I'll get her for you." Now, I had Cinderella and I really liked her. I loved using her stuff. I think I remember Ariel wearing her stuff a lot. But during my pruning phase, I hadn't had her all that long, and I was like, oh, I just kind of bought that doll because Dad just bought me this doll on the whim. I don't need her. And I remember putting her in the donate pile, or like the yard sale pile. And just for the record, those dolls didn't actually sell at the yard sale. My dad ended up bringing them to his coworker's daughter, like, to work, so she could have them. So when he saw Cinderella in the bin, he recognized her, and he was so upset. His heart was broken, like, I bought you that doll, and it broke my heart. But for some reason, I was at that point too ashamed to pull her out of the bin. So that resonated with me forever, and I wanted this doll, like, from that time on, and I could not find her. And in 2012, a few months after my dad passed away, we went to this indoor flea market we used to always go to with him. And this man who had a bunch of dolls of the world, Barbies, and like our first King Dominic doll, he had this Cinderella. And I am so glad to have her, and you know, you should always be grateful when people spend their money on you or think of you and buy you things.
I got a Pretty Hearts Barbie for my birthday one year. Maybe even the year I got Hollywood Hair Ken, I'm not sure. I never really liked her. I named her Faith, which is funny because there was a girl at school that I didn't like named Faith. So why would I name her after someone I didn't like? It must have just been something about the doll I didn't like. So for years she was like my least favorite doll. While Shelly was like an obsessive pruner, I'm more like a hoarder. I don't like to get rid of anything. So I was loath to get rid of anybody, but pretty eager to get rid of Faith. So I did.
I was devastated. I loved this doll. Colin just didn't care. So, but I liked her because I thought she had a really pretty, like, more natural facial screening, and also she was like advertised on a lot of stuff back then. She was like the iconic Barbie in like '95. So I found this doll. It had to have been less than a year later at the flea market, and I bought her. So this is like kind of my Pretty Hearts Barbie, and she was still wearing her outfit. She was like new, and I named her Faith after the old one, and Colleen always forgets that the story of that. This is 1998 Sleeping Beauty Barbie. Now this is not the exact variation that I had, and I'll explain. So for my 9th birthday, Mom and Dad took me out to KB Toys in the mall, and my grandmother every year, she would give me money for clothes. My birthday's in August, so anytime people gave me birthday money, it was for school clothes, and that made me really mad. Well, Mom would always be nice and let me spend about like $20 of it on myself. So we went to KB Toys on my birthday, and they had a 2 for $20 sale on these princess dolls. So it was Rapunzel and Sleeping Beauty. And I fell in love with them. I always wanted a Rapunzel. It wasn't the exact one I wanted. I wanted the 97 one. But I took the 99 one home, and I loved the Sleeping Beauty. Now, mine has the opening and closing eyes. The one I had as a kid was the KB Toys version that had the painted eyes. She is gorgeous. And the only one I've seen since had really cut hair and like was in horrible shape, so I didn't buy her. But I remember on that birthday we got our 66 Camp Out Tan that they surprised me with, and I remember we had this whole weird scenario where All-American Ken, aka Kevin, kidnapped Barbie, and they were like living in this tent, and I always think of Sleeping Beauty when I think of that tent.
Me too.
So I just decided to get rid of her during the pruning for whatever reason. Even though I liked her better than Rapunzel, like Rapunzel was more sentimental at the time, but I liked the doll better of Sleeping Beauty. So yeah, I ended up, she was one of the first Barbies I bought as an adult collector. She was the first one I got boxed, actually. She was inside at a different indoor flea market that Dad used to take us to.
Is she from the guy that sold you your holiday, Princess Cindy?
Yep.
Court Katie. So my first one of these I got at a weird Walmart when Shelly got her, what year is Crystal? Pretty Princess?
2001 Pretty Princess.
2001 Pretty Princess Barbie. And we went home, and our parents were building a bathroom in our basement, which never got finished. And they had this toilet out, and we made Crystal and Katie spin around the toilet. And Katie became like my favorite doll. She was in every game from that moment. But one day I was dressing her to go with Jasmine to the beach, and her little arm popped right off, and I was devastated. I dragged Dad back to Walmart, but we couldn't find one. They didn't have her anymore because it had been several months.
He didn't know how to fix her arm.
And he didn't know how to fix her arm, and I didn't realize at the time that you can just pop the top off and put her on a new body, which is why I actually still have my first one of these, is because several years later I learned how to fix her. I ended up waiting what felt like an eternity, but was probably less than a month. Took Dad out to like every Walmart I could think of, and when we were on our way to visit our Auntie Kim and Uncle Ray, who lived in Rhode Island at the time, that's when I finally found her. So that's the story of this doll. She's actually not my first doll like this, but for some reason she embodies both to me, and she's definitely my favorite.
We have 1996 Working Out Barbie and 1997 Flip and Die Barbie. Please excuse her hair, it got caught on something. So from one of my birthdays, it had to have been my 7th birthday, because I didn't have a lot of birthday parties growing up because I just hated other kids, and also I remember it was girls. We went to this like private Christian school for when I was in like kindergarten and 1st grade, and there were girls from that school who got me these, and then we went to public school when I was in 2nd grade. So that's how I remember what birthday it must have been. So I got them as gifts, and I really liked them. I thought they were cool. They were my first articulated Barbies. Especially loved Working Out Barbie. I remember going to my grandparents that day after I got her, and like she had the suction cups, and I was like sticking her to the car window, and I actually lost her shoe in that parking lot of that convenience store.
That's crazy.
But I liked them both, and they had real creative names, Flip and Working Out. And I used to set up, we had this old coffee table downstairs that went to our old living room set, and I would make it like their workout room, and I would like set up all of their weights and stuff on the coffee table. Well, when I went through my pruning phase, obviously I got rid of them.
And I think I was initially sadder about it than she was, because I had this real thing for 90s Barbies.
So literally within almost, this was the first one I replaced, probably within like a week or two, a month or so. It's hard to tell and gauge time when you were a kid, but it wasn't long after I found this doll at the flea market used, and I was really glad to find her because I regretted getting rid of her, and she was still wearing her outfit, and I had still held on to some of my Working Out Barbie's like accessories and like her workout tape, so I still had some of that anyways. I think her hair scrunchie is actually from my first doll, and honestly I was kind of glad not to have the doll that those girls got me, because they didn't really like me. I just invited people to my birthday party, but I didn't really, like, people didn't really like me when I was a little kid, so.
Can't imagine why.
No, I was so desperate for friends and so awkward, and I would like ask people to go to my party and make them pictures and things, and they'd reject me. This is why I decided I didn't like people, because you know I get rejected so many times.
Dolls don't reject you.
So then I actually got her Flip and Die as an adult. I got her in 2011. We went to this indoor flea market that Dad used to take us to all the time on the side of the highway, and the stuff there never changed. It was like this old lady and this old man that were there, and it was like stinky. There was junk piled up. It was usually overpriced, and she had a naked Flip and Dive Barbie in her box of dolls, and I had to get her, but it was my birthday. It was my 20th birthday. And she let me have this doll for free because it was my birthday.
So Shelly and I pooled together our money when we were very young to buy a Shop and Fun Barbie and Shelly set. It must have been like, it had the Shelly name instead of the Kelly name. I don't know if it was foreign or if it was overstock. Exactly. We got them, and we still have Shelly.
It was at the flea market. You're leaving that out.
Oh yeah.
I found them at the flea market. They were in their box, and they were on this picnic blanket, and they had like their shopping cart and some of the food pieces, but most weren't there. I vividly remember.
And I loved the little cardboard mac and cheese. Well, I held on to the Shelly, but Shelly decided to get rid of, that's ironic, Shelly decided to get rid of Barbie. We found this doll years and years later when we went with Dad's friend Jimmy to a big outdoor flea market. Jimmy's friend Steve, who gave us our Spring Blossom Barbie, was set up there that day. So we actually, after I found her, we left her in his car while we finished walking around.
Her outfit came from a bin we got later that year. No, we already had it.
Yep, in the Filthy Disney bin of 2011.
And then she was actually in a box with vintage Barbies. And the guy wanted $2 for her naked, but he wanted he wanted like 10 for like the very curly vintage Barbies.
And Shelly didn't initially want to buy the doll because he was kind of like
a jerk.
Yeah. So, but I ended up grabbing $2 and running back to buy the Barbie.
Yeah, because I regretted getting rid of her as a kid. Speaking of Kelly and Barbie sets that I regretted getting rid of as a kid, we went to this, like, what was it?
Some sort of grown-up party.
I don't know. It wasn't a wedding. It was some kind of like anniversary party. It was like at this big party hall.
It was boring.
It was so boring. I still feel that way. They had a raffle, and my mom wanted this like table ornament thing. It was like a vase that had like a flower wreath around it. I don't know.
Probably broke it later.
My mom liked it. She liked that kind of thing. So she said, "Oh, I'll make a deal with you. If you win the raffle, I'll let you get a doll." And I was like, I'm gonna win this raffle. I never win things, by the way. Well, I won the raffle, and then I immediately was like, yeah, I'm getting this doll. So being impatient and like having money used to burn a hole in my wallet all the time. So my dad took me out to get the doll. We went to Walmart. Now, there were plenty of things I'm sure I had wanted for a while at that point, but no, I saw the brand new Giggles and Swing Barbie set, and I was like, this will be great because Colleen and I can share it. Because she likes Kelly and I like Barbie, and I thought Barbie was super pretty, and I thought about getting the African American set, but for some reason I picked the blonde. We got the set, and Dad was like, are you sure that's what you want? We can go to other stores, I'll take you to Toys R Us, but I was like, no, I need it, and I need it now. So, Colleen did not actually like Kelly all that much at the time.
No, we named her Missy. I thought she kind of looked a little snotty.
But you liked her outfit.
Oh my god.
And I love Barbie. This doll is not nearly as pretty as the one I had growing up. She looked smashing in Gypsy Dancing Esmeralda's dress. That's what she wore all the time. And I remember I thought I lost her one day and in that dress because I had stuck her in my dollhouse and I didn't remember that she was in my dollhouse. Remember how we went looking for her forever? And then it turned out she was like in a McDonald's Happy Meal box in my dollhouse. I don't know. But I ended up getting rid of her during that doll pruning phase when I was 8, and I really regretted it, and I actually found her in 2012. This was, I want to say, the second to last flea market trip before my dad passed away. He was in like a hospice at the time because he couldn't go home, he was so sick. And I remember that day we found my taiko singing Ariel and a few other things, and I got her from a regular seller, and she was wearing her outfit, if I'm not mistaken, and she's not as pretty as my childhood one.
And ironically, like 5 minutes later, we saw another one.
Yeah, in the bin with Taiko Ariel.
So Shelly got for, was it your birthday, Christmas?
No, I bought her with allowance money.
Shelly bought a Totally Yo-Yo Courtney with her allowance money, but then Rashley got rid of her at the yard sale. This doll was, I mean, she was beautiful. She was breathtaking.
We both loved her.
We both thought she was gorgeous. She played with her a lot with Tori because their clothes were like the same size because Tori has that teen Skipper body. And I thought she was gorgeous, and it was my first encounter with Skipper's friend Courtney. So years later, when I decided to get into Skipper, when I bought my Rio de Janeiro Skipper, this doll is who I was actually thinking of, which is why I named her Courtney. So, but we both wanted to get a real Totally Yo-Yo doll. So we looked and looked and we never really found one, but then one day Monster High Lady had one and we bought her. I mean, she's pretty, but compared to the one Shelly had, she's not that pretty. But we're appreciative to have her anyway.
I remember I liked my childhood doll so much that I took her to a boat
show,
and I lost one of her like cool green boots, and I was so devastated. We went looking all over the whole like venue for it and we couldn't find it. So Dad smuggled me some Barbie shoes from the dollar store.
Little extras.
Yeah, he bought them for me and he told me to pretend I found them in my closet so Colin wouldn't get jealous.
And I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. I was like, let's go see what else is in the closet.
This is one of my favorite Barbies of all time, and I don't know why I got rid of my first one. This is Dentist Barbie from 1997. If you've read my Flickr, especially like my story posts, I talk about Dentist Barbie a lot. I was a kid, maybe 6 or 7 years old. I was at the flea market one day with Mom, Dad, and Colleen. And by the way, this is the same flea market that we still go to every Sunday. It's been like a family tradition since we were in diapers. She was on a table with a bunch of Barbies, and I saw the Barbies and I was like, ooh, dolls. And I went over and I was looking, And there was a lot to choose from, but there was this dentist Barbie wearing her outfit, and it was open because it has these buttons, and if you have dentist Barbie, you know she's always like bosoms ahoy because it doesn't stay closed. And my heart broke for her. Like, this poor Barbie, she has no modesty, she's all exposed to the world. And Colleen was just kind of like looking over at the other dolls, and I'm sitting there, and I was like really shy and awkward, and I like kind of went and I found Dad, and he was like, oh, did you see a doll you wanted? And I was like, yeah. So he gave me the $2, and I went and I bought Barbie, and I got her home, and she became like my favorite doll. I remember playing with her in my folding pretty house.
So what happened was, originally Kelsey, the bath time fun Kelly, was paired with Ariel. But then later, Shelly got a Christy doll, Pearl Beach, and thought, oh, well now she can be Kelsey's mom. But then what happened is Christy went bad, and Dentist Barbie took over and became this good nanny that like cleaned.
Yeah, see, my idea of a villain as a kid was a person who was dirty, above all else, a bad housekeeper, and also wore very skimpy clothes. Because apparently how you dress defines what kind of person you are, according to younger Shelly.
And another thing we like to do was make Tara Lipinski, the Olympic skater Barbie, who was bad. We would make her like steal things and like smuggle clothes in her like dress.
Yeah, she's
like,
right, we make her bounce checks.
And we didn't even know about checks.
We made her a fraud.
The things that we thought were like bad.
I know.
Even when we were older and she got another doll as an adult, I knew she was bored playing with her when she started making her not clean. And Shelly was in her 20s.
I would get bored. I had like doll boredom. I would like play with the doll and be all into it, and then I'd be like, I'm kind of bored. And then I wouldn't just be like, hey, can you play a different game? I'd be like, no, this is exciting. I can have like this other doll come in. And I remember I had my like, what was it called? The 97, wasn't the pretty pink house?
The folding pretty.
Yeah, it was a different folding house. Folding pretty house garden set I got for my birthday one year. And I used to like take paper leaves that came with this like fashion pack, and I'd sprinkle them all over the yard like Christy had kept up with the yard. And I'd make Dentist Barbie rake the leaves and plant all these flowers and make her like do all the dishes. Oh, I loved her. But then, and I remember there was this day we left her and Kelsey outside on this like kids table, and they got rained on. Remember?
Yeah.
And then I ran inside, and I was like, oh, she's wet. I have to dry her off and change her clothes. She still worked after that. Battery operated dolls work quite well for even if they get wet. But anyways, I digress. So many memories. I, for whatever reason, decided to get rid of her during that pruning phase. It was something I instantly regretted. I wanted to replace her. I found an African-American Dentist Barbie box at the flea market when I was a little bit older, but it just wasn't the same, even though normally I like the AA dolls better. So I found her in 2011 at this big outdoor flea market that was in like a race car track area thing. She was at this table, and I saw her outfit on another doll, and the lady let me dress her in the right outfit. She was like $2, and she's really, really pretty. I actually had another one that I did find as a kid, but she was real ugly, and she had cut hair. and she had like broken thumbs, and I think I threw her out because she was so manky.
At some point, our Auntie Kim and Uncle Ray got us Florida Vacation Barbie and Teresa, and I remember they got us these like clone fashion packs, and we dressed them up and made them like working at a nightclub singing. It was fun.
We were at their house.
It was exciting,
We
but
were in front of their
then,
TV.
you know, Shelly got bored of Barbie and donated her in that great purge.
2011.
In 2011, we found this gorgeous replacement at an indoor flea market from this really nice lady, and she was still dressed up and she looked good. So.
Okay, and for me, when I look at this Barbie, I actually remember the feeling when I got her. So I was excited to find her, but it wasn't like one of the dolls I got rid of that I most regretted. But she reminds me of when I really stopped caring what people thought about me being a grown-up playing with dolls. Because I was too embarrassed to even like pay for dolls originally. But like, you know, I might have my own money in the instance, but I wouldn't want to be the one that like went up and inquired or asked or paid for the doll or carried it around. I'd kind of like try to make it discreet. But I just remember the day I got her, I was like, screw it. And I was just walking around carrying her like this at the flea market, and I didn't care, and like that's kind of just how I am now. And I think that that's a good thing when you just don't care anymore what people think, because you shouldn't let what other people say stop you from doing what you want in life. And honestly, you'd be surprised, people aren't as judgmental as you think they're gonna be. Like when we got our bin, the Princess and the Pauper lot 2 weeks ago at the flea market, there is this guy that remembered us from several years before, who was all like, hey, the Barbie girls. And then this other guy at this other booth was all like, oh, look, they have the rare blue-haired doll, because he saw Ghoulia sitting on top of them. And like, most people just kind of like laugh and play with you, so it's really not that intimidating. I mean, maybe it is if you're like a male collector, but because people can be real idiots about that, but I just find that most people don't really care.
No, nobody
They're just
really
kind of
cares.
like, yeah, you're weird, like when we were refinancing our house, our mortgage lady was just kind of like, oh, you have dolls, that's cool. Like, So this is another doll that I got rid of in that purge. This is Hollywood Nails Teresa. I remember I got my first one secondhand at the flea market. She was, I don't know, like $2 and naked when I got her. But I bought like a separate bagged doll fashion with her. It was like cool Dance Club Barbie's jacket, and then like these purple pants. Well, anyways, I really liked her. I thought she was cool, and I knew who she was when I got her because these dolls weren't old at all. But I just, for some reason, got rid of her in that purge, and I couldn't have had her all that long because I actually forgot I had this doll. Well, then in 2012, our cousin's now wife, she asked me to clean up all her childhood Barbies. And when I was going through her dolls, she had Hollywood Nails Barbie, Teresa, and I was like, why does this feel so right?
I said, Shelly, you had her, you bought her with the Dance Club Barbie shirt. She's like, oh yeah.
So I really wanted her, and now this isn't a doll that I actually found separate. She turned up in the Teresa lot. If you watch one of my first transformation videos, she's in this video. And when I saw her, she was like, this is part of why we named it the Teresa lot. I was so excited to have her.
So when I was really young, like 7, 8, couldn't have been much older than that, for my birthday, Dad said he'd take me out and buy me a Barbie. And I picked out Sun Jewel Barbie because she had the pretty pink bathing suit and she was blonde. And Dad said, because Shelly was the type who would get jealous on my birthdays, Dad said, you can pick a doll out for Shelly too. Well, Shelly used to take my classics Jasmine doll and be jealous of her. So I was like, well, Shelly likes Jasmine. This doll with the black hair kind of looks like Jasmine. So I picked Kyra out for Shelly. And Kyra was very loved. At some point she was wearing my Jasmine's necklace and I wasn't too happy about that. And Shelly took her to the beach.
I was like James Bond. I would sneak into your room and steal all your Aladdin stuff. And Mom would be like, you're gonna get in trouble when your sister's home. And I'd be like, I don't care.
So Kyra, like, her head started to roll off. And one time we were at the beach and Shelly let someone else play with Kyra and the head rolled off and got lost in the pond. And the other little girl didn't even care. She's like, oh, I guess we can't play Barbie anymore.
She handed me the body and walked away.
And then Shelly and I went out and looked at Mission and we found Kyra's head.
It's amazing. But that water was disgusting.
I know, like you couldn't see, but we combed that pond and we found Kyra's head. But Kyra, years later, Faith hadn't done her well. She had the classic guinea pig chew marks. Her head was like, you know, like glued on. Her hair was too short.
No face paint.
One of her earrings was missing. Yeah, she was in really sad shape. So because she was in such bad shape, we just couldn't justify keeping her.
And her body, when you picked her up, all her limbs were
She was like a limp noodle. She was just like. So we had to get rid of her. And a friend of Shelly's found her at the flea market in 2012 or 13. She picked her out for Shelly and sent her here. So we've had Kyra since then, and she's very loved, and she's not the same as our first doll. But when I look at her, I'm like, it's Kyra.
She's a lot more attractive than my first one.
Yeah, she is.
This is Dual Girl Teresa. Now this is one of my favorite dolls that was ever made of all time. She will always be so iconic to me. And please ignore the blood stain on her skirt from Colleen that we have to clean now. I remember when these dolls came out, they have this like, you know, waist that twists, which actually needs to be wiped down. And I remember the commercials. We would be watching TV in Mom and Dad's room, and it would come on, and we'd jump on the bed, and we'd like sing with the commercial. Well, Dad took us out one day to the store, and I forget exactly which store I got her at, but they had the Jewel Girl Barbies finally, and I fell in love with Teresa, and I had to get her, and she was my favorite doll. Like, I would change her into a nightgown every night. She would sleep with me every night. She would go wherever I went. When I would like tell her I'm going to school, and then I'd go to school and I'd come running back into the house to see her. She was like legit my favorite doll for the brief time I had her. And I remember I also really liked her because she has purple lips. And I have Raynaud's disease, which means like I'm cold all the time basically, and my fingers and feet and lips and stuff will turn purple. Well, when I was a kid, anytime I went swimming, I would look like I was wearing bright purple lipstick. Like everyone knew this. They didn't know what was wrong with me, but it was just this weird thing. And I remember I took her over Colleen's friend's house, and I had her in the pool with me, and then her friend's dad was like, oh, you two match, and I was like, hey, that's really cool, she gets purple lips too. So anyways, I got rid of her at this yard sale. I don't know why, I really don't know why I ended up getting rid of her, but I regretted it immediately, and it broke my heart when the only thing I could find of hers was like a few outfit pieces several years later at the flea market. So she was someone that I tracked down. I hunted for this doll. Well then, at the very beginning of 2013, we went to this now closed local consignment store, and they had a ton of box dolls. I've never seen box dolls in there since, but there was a ton. And we got a lot of dolls that day, but I think she was only like $6 or $7 boxed, and I was like, hallelujah. So of course I had to buy her, and I actually did play with her a few times.
Yeah, so about that.
Her
So
name's
we were
Roxanne.
talking about Shelly getting bored of dolls. So she's, now in her early 20s and playing with Roxanne, and I'm playing with Caleb, my Hollywood hair Ken. And the storyline went that Roxanne and her sisters lived in one house, and Caleb and his sister Becky lived in the other. And Caleb and Roxanne were dating. Well, at some point, she got bored of Roxanne, and that made Caleb look bad. And I was all salty about it, like, next time I'm making Caleb date a Bratz doll, so that you won't make his girlfriend go bad and make him look bad
Can
by
we just
extension.
say that she also was a messy housekeeper and started
Yes.
dressing in lingerie?
Shelly's 8th birthday, she got, Happen to Hair Christy and Generation Girl Chelsea.
At Toys R Us, it was my first generation girl.
She really enjoyed Christy because she thought she was cool, but her hair kind of has this gray cast because of the type of hair it is, because it's supposed to change color when it's cold. So Shelly thought Christy was cool, but then she got bored of Christy and got rid of her in the Great Doll Purge.
I wasn't really bored of her, I don't know, I just thought I had to get rid of dolls.
Yeah.
I liked her, I liked Christy. I didn't have a lot of Christies at the time.
Yeah, she was one of your very first Christies.
Mm-hmm.
So then she ended up rebuying her, I want to say the same place we got Roxanne, right? In box.
Same day.
The same day. We got a ton of really cool like replacement dolls and just like new dolls. So yeah,
And
she's really cool.
my favorite part about this doll, you're gonna laugh, was her pants. I thought these were like the coolest thing. I would put these on my Water Drool Magic Jasmine, and I would pair it with this polka dot. It's supposed to be a swimsuit top, but it looks more like a bra. And it was like that crop top bell bottom thing that was really popular at the time. It looked ridiculous, especially with Jasmine's purple earrings, but that was like my outfit for my dolls. That was like Jasmine's look. Travel and Style Barbie, Heidi. So she's a bit different because she is not a case of me getting rid of a doll because I felt like I had too many. So Dad took us to KB Toys a lot when we were kids. That was kind of like his way of coping after we lost our mom. He never wanted to be home, and he thought buying us toys would make him feel better. So this was like 2003, the beginning of 2003. We went to KB Toys, and I remember finding Heidi there. And I was like, oh wow, this Barbie's really pretty, and I liked that she came with lots of extra clothes. And I remember I was at the register, and Dad had given us all of his change. I counted out $12 in change for this doll. That poor cashier. So she became my favorite doll, and I'm not usually one to like be that into blonde dolls, but when I like a blonde doll like Dentist Barbie or Heidi, I get like really into them. So Heidi was my favorite. I played with her all the time. I loved her. She was like, she replaced my sparkling princess Jasmine.
Yeah, Jasmine wouldn't be happy if she knew Leroy and Heidi around on the same time.
I know, she dated Leroy. Well, anyways, I remember one day I was watching TV and I saw this really cool haircut. And go figure, I went to cosmetology school as a teenager. I was like, oh, that would look really good on Heidi. So I go and I grab Heidi out of the room and I go and I give her this awful bob haircut. And I immediately regretted it and I started crying. Dad took me all over creation looking for this doll for several weeks. We couldn't
And
find
because
her.
she was already kind of like an outdated doll, it's not like she was still in stores.
Yeah, and I had her a while when this happened, like several months. So we ended up going on eBay, and the only one we could find was from the United Kingdom. So she is like, I think my only doll that I actually got from out of the country besides like Canada. And she came with like slightly different packaging, and her shoes and stuff were a different color variation. And I remember the day she came in the mail, I was in the shower and Dad came in with the box and I was like, oh, screw the shower. I like got out of the shower and I ran and I opened her up, and then we went out later that day.
And he had to stop at the ATM.
Yeah, because we were probably
to buy more toys and pizza.
So Dad takes Heidi, he's got her on the steering wheel, and he's doing this, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna jump out the window, and he like throws her in the parking lot.
Even though I just ordered her online from the UK.
And so then he had to like throw the car in reverse and like pick her up. That's what I always think of when I think of Heidi. Anyway, she's actually more attractive than my first, and I did keep my one with cut hair for a long time, but then I ended up using her as a body donor because I needed the body for someone else.
And last but not least, Generation Girl Tori.
I still have my first.
Shelly got Tori for Christmas in 1999 when she got her a girl of today named Angela. And because they were like the expensive gifts, she only got the two things. And she'd wanted Tori since she got Chelsea.
I was only going to get the two.
Right, but they bought
I got other little things, but I've got an American Girl on Tori. And they even tried to put Tori on layaway for me.
And she wanted her ever since she saw the advertisement on Chelsea's watch. She's like, oh, I want that one next.
Mm-hmm.
So Tori was like the it gift that Christmas. She loved her pigtails and her urban style streetwear and these bell bottoms and her skateboard.
Underwear.
And her cute little skivvies, and she just loved everything about Tori. Tori was like awesome.
And I remember how salty I was when our relatives came over and Mom and Dad told us to stop playing Barbies.
Oh yeah, I never liked that part of Christmas. But because Tori was so loved, she got very heavily abused, and she had a big bald patch back here.
Mm-hmm.
So
and she was loose.
Shelly ended up wanting a replacement, even though she still has her childhood doll. So we were with Dad in an antique store in 2011, and there were a couple different antique stores in one area, and in one of them we found this adorable Tori doll in the basement with one of my Flashlight Fun Stacy's, and that's how Tori came to be.
Yeah, she wasn't wearing her whole outfit, she was wearing part of it.
And she's very cool.
Yeah, she's probably my favorite of the Generation Girl Tories because I was just so excited when I found her. So I hope you guys enjoyed meeting all of these dolls and the stories behind them. And we'll definitely be doing similar styles with different topics because honestly it's easier than like making a classics favorites video or something because guys, we have like too many dolls to be favorites, or you'll just see the same dolls that you hear about all the time. So
Leroy.
Until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.